Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Hawk Blogger. And I am going to be slowly waking up during this episode. I thought by setting it at 8 a.m. on this Memorial Day Monday that give me plenty of time to sleep in. But lo and behold, I didn't even set alarms. I rolled over and saw the clock said it was like 8:50 or 7:50 in the morning, and it's like, well, I'm still going to read the paper. So I flew through the sports page, fed the dog, fed the cat, took the dog out, and rolled right in here for this show. So what's probably more amazing to me than the fact that I'm on air here half awake is that there's people already watching, that there's folks that were waiting for the show. And apologies for being 5 or 6 minutes late. I try not to be, but it happened today, and I hope everybody's having a good day off of work, wherever you are. If you're out of the country in another country, then just having a good Monday or maybe a Tuesday, depending on where you are. And I do want to do a quick thing of just thanking anyone that's a service member or who's had family that are service members in the States. It is a massive sacrifice and something that I certainly really appreciate and respect when people dedicate themselves to service of all sorts in this country, but especially military service, and lets this flawed but really fantastic country be possible. And so really appreciate you and anyone that's lost someone who has been a service member. A special thank you to you, and hope that you have an especially good day remembering those are your loved ones that did something pretty special. So appreciate everybody. Hope you do have some plans. Memorial Day, the kind of typical plan is barbecue of some sort in the States. And I went to fire up the grill this past weekend, and it was a grill that I got as a birthday present, I think almost 10 years ago. And nice gas powered grill. We got a gas line to it, no propane. The whole thing is just push button, pretty simple. But I am not one of those people that really is fastidious about my grill caretaking. And so I always know I'm going to have some cleanup to do after a season. I mean, it's always undercover, but I don't really super clean it down. And so it finally gave out. There's enough rust, enough broken parts. I think I've tried to replace some of those parts, but the grill's kaput, I'm pretty sure. So I might give it another shot today, but we may be making choices other than grilling today, and hope that everybody has fun, whatever it is, even if it's sleeping. So whatever you need to recover, I hope you're getting it. On the topic of the show for today, I am excited to kind of share a little bit of pre-show research I've done on something that I just think is it's such a problem for Seattle that I think people just don't even think about it anymore. It's just kind of, well, Seattle's not good at that. But it's such a problem that I wanted to take a moment to dive in. And it's unfortunately not a problem that's specific to one side of the football. I'm going to talk to you about third down. Third down for the Seahawks has been a real issue for this team. And it wasn't just an issue last year, and it wasn't just an issue the year before that. It's been an issue for pretty much all of the last 10 years or more. And I want to give you some information about where the Seahawks are in their third down problem, but also talk to you about why it matters. And I only did a little bit of work here. I was hoping to do some more, but as I said, I slept in a little later than I expected. So we might do a little research together, depending on how I'm feeling and how you guys are finding it. But I want to kind of talk about this because the Seahawks have been historically one of the worst third down teams in football. And what does that look like? Well, um let me build you a quick chart here. And this is just the Seahawks. Let's just do offense for a second. And this won't be my beautiful work that I've been doing. At least I think it's beautiful on other shows. I'm just going to show you some yucky sheets work. And let me see if this is right. X-axis is year. And then this doesn't really. No, maybe I can switch this. 1 second while I'm doing this real time. So appreciate you guys. That doesn't really work either. Well, I'll do this. I'll do them as separate looks. The Seahawks. The Seahawks third down rankings. Let's do this first. And I'll add labels here. And this is their third down offense. Let's give it a title so you guys actually can see what this is. Sorry, I'm using Google Sheets, and I gotta admit, Excel's way easier to work with when working on titles, working with data and sheets. All right, Seahawks third down rankings offense. Okay, I'm ready to share you something here. Okay, present, and we'll bring you this bad boy here. All right, look at this gorgeous, well manicured Google sheet I've got for you here. Hopefully you could see that a little bit. I'm going to try to increase the text size here so you can see a little bit more. Format the data labels. Let's get the font size up even more. Let's make it even bigger. There you go. That should be viewable. All right. So this is the Seahawks third down rankings on offense. They were actually higher than I expected last year. They were 23rd in the NFL. The year before that, they were 20th. The year before that, they were 23rd. The year before that, 20th. And then 16th. That was kind of a high water mark that they were middle of the road on offense. Then 17th. Then 21st in 2017. So we're deep into the Russell Wilson era here. This is not anyone that thought, oh, it's just Geno Smith or it's just Shane Waldron. No, it's been different coordinators, different quarterbacks, different times, different groups of receivers, different groups of offensive linemen. It has just been bad. And so you keep going back. 2016, it was 16th. 2015 was the one time that the Seahawks were one of the best offenses in football in third down conversions. They were fourth. We'll look at that season a little bit and remember a little bit about that season. Their third down rank on offense in 2014 was 11th, so still quite good. I think any of us would take a pretty much top 10 finish in third down conversions. 2013, they were 17th. 2012, they were 12th. So if people remember, the Seahawks were like the top offense in DVOA. That's Aaron Schatz's creation over on Football Outsiders, or what was Football Outsiders. During this era, people always talk about the defense, but the offense was the most efficient offense in football during that time, or close to it. And so this was the group that was performing well at that time, but even they were generally not top 10 at third down conversions. This was not like the Tom Brady Patriots. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick look up of, see if I can do this quickly, how hard it is. Come on, this is taking too long. I want to see like what the Patriots rank was in third down offense during their eras. Let's go back to, what was it, like 2014? And the Patriots at that time were 6th on offense. The year before, they were 15th, although that was not a year that they went to the Super Bowl, as we know. 2012, they were 1st. 2011, they were 5th. So I'm sure I could keep going back on this. And the fact of the matter is the Patriots were a very different style of offense. Yes, 2010, they were 2nd. So this was a top 3 to 5 third down offense during the Tom Brady era, because it was largely a ball control offense. It was an offense that just moved the ball down the field. 3 to 5 to 8 yards was a perfectly fine gain for them. They became kind of experts at like taking the small gains, and you couldn't cover all of these routes at such a, it is hard to cover those routes across the entire field when Tom Brady has a pretty good idea of what you're going to be running on defense, what your weakness is, where they can change things. And it was just an expertise that they had, and just getting them off the field was very, very hard. The Seahawks offense, even under Russell Wilson, had always been much more of a big play offense, explosive play offense, and a running game offense, which is something we'll talk about as well. I think that there is certainly correlation between having a better running offense and being a better third down team. Get you into more attainable third downs. And also running on third down is something that also is pretty darn important. As a point in fact, if we go back to the Seahawks, back in the day when they had like Sean Alexander, right? And they had Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson and Matt Hasselbeck. They were, in 2005, they were 14th in the NFL in third down conversion. It wasn't great, but it was certainly better than 23rd and some of the things that we've seen from the Seahawks over the years. But third down historically has just not been something the Seahawks are particularly good about. Even 2007, if you remember, the Seahawks had a very good offense. It was Matt Hasselbeck's best statistical year, but they abandoned the run completely because it wasn't working. And they were 26th in the NFL in third downs, only converting 35%. So for whatever reason, this has just not been something the Seahawks were good at. And if we look a little bit more at this. Let me. Oh, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second so I can get the right thing up here. If we look at the offense, that's one thing we will do. But unfortunately, it's not the only thing. The Seahawks defense has also been a problem for years. And so you just saw the Seahawks third down offense. Let me create for you a quick look at what the Seahawks third down defense has been the past few years. It's also not great. It's a little bit better because you had the Legion of Boom era where there was some high points in what they were able to do. And let me put that together here and give you a quick label. And I'll show you this. So and let me let me switch the axis order. All right. So here is the Seahawks third down defense. All right. So in the last 4 years, they ranked 30th last year in defending third downs. They were 27th in 2022. These are the last 2 years. They were 13th in 2021. And we'll look at that and see if there's anything to learn from it. But they were better then. But right back to 27th in 2020. So 3 of the past 4 years, the Seahawks have been one of the 5 worst defenses in defending third downs. And yes, I see Evan Hill as one of our audience members. Thank you, Evan, for tuning in. Appreciate it. I can only imagine the paddle balling that you'll be doing today or whatever you're going to be doing today. So good to see you, brother. After before 2020, you get into 2019, they ranked 16th. 2018, they were ranked 5th. 2017, 15th. 2016, 12th. And really, they were top 10 during the peak of the LOB era between 2013 to 2015. They were 10th, 8th, and 4th from 2013 to 2015. But they really, over the last 4 years, this has been a massive decline, going from even just being in the top half of the league in defending third downs to being one of the worst third down defenses in football. My guess is if I also looked at their ranks in run defense over those years, they would be pretty similar. Before I do that, what I want to talk to you about is something that I'll discuss throughout the show, which I don't think I've seen anywhere else. I mean, I'm sure it exists. It's not a complicated thing, but I've tracked it for years. And for a while, it was kind of this bellwether for the Seahawks on whether they were going to win a game. This was during the LOB era. You could almost guarantee that if they won in this statistic, if it was positive, then they were going to win the game. And that stat is third down differential. So if you take the percentage of third downs that your offense converts and you subtract from that the percentage of third downs that your defense allows the opponent to convert, you get what I call third down differential. And I want to see if this, so this is a chart here that shows you this a little bit more. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit more readable for those that are for following along. There, that's a little bit more readable. This is the Seahawks third down differential over this period of time. And what I've got overlaid there, the red is the Seahawks defensive percentage that they're allowing. I'll make this a little bit bigger for folks that are following along. And let's make it, yeah, I think that's a little bit easier to read. And we'll make the blue is the Seahawks offensive percentage that they had over this period of time. Now, if you look from a trend perspective, this is from 2012 to 2024. What you've got is relatively flat. The Seahawks defense was allowing between 35 and 38% almost every year, all the way up until 2020. And then in 2020, the defense allows 47% of opponent third downs to be converted. They do blip back up to 39%, which is still higher, but 39% in 2021. But 2022, 42%, 2023, 46% of opponent third downs. So almost every other third down is converted on defense for the Seahawks over this last 4-year period. On offense, they had gone from converting 40% of their third downs in 2012, actually dipped down to 37% in 2013, but then got up to a 42.5% in 2014 and up to 46.5% in 2015. That was their high water mark. But those are two very strong. If you're over 40% on third downs, you should take that every day. And remember, 2015 was the highest ranking the Seahawks had. 46.5% got them 4th in the NFL in third down conversions. But since then, they've been down here at the, 37, 38, almost 39%. They did get to 40% in 2020. Worth kind of paying attention to that. But the last 3 years, 37%, 37%, and last year dipped down to 36.2%, which is, let's double check, it is the lowest offensive percentage on third down, at least in the last 10 years. And so what that's meant, if you look at third down differential, during the LOB era, 2012 through 2015, you see all positive numbers here. You see a 1.8% gain in advantage in 2012, 2.1 in 2013, all the way up to 5.4 in 2014, a 12.1% advantage on third downs in 2015. And then they dip down. 2016, negative 0.5, negative 0.8, 3.9. So they go back up in 2018. But then from there, it's just a steady trip down. 1.1, which is not terrible, but not great in 2019. Negative 6.9 in 2020. So even though in 2020, they had a 40.2% third down conversion on offense, their defense made that a negative differential. That's why I think the differential is important to pay attention to, because it's not just about staying on the field and sustaining drives. It is about keeping the opponents from doing the same thing. It's about controlling the game and reducing your opponent's chances to score the football while you increase yours. And so even in 2020, despite the offense playing reasonably well, it wasn't great overall. It goes to -2 in 2021, -4.5 in 2022. And then last year, the worst I've seen it, -10.1% It's just going the wrong way. Um, One of the things that I just um, frustrates me quite a bit is seeing seeing the Seahawks struggle not on one thing but on multiple things, right? And so when you're looking here and you see this defense just sliding into like absolute awfulness, and then you see the offense just starting to taper off, and this overall just differential dropping, it's a problem. It's a problem. And one of the things I wanted to bring up here, we're going to get into this a little bit more, is the Seahawks specifically were not just bad on third downs in general, but if you looked at third down and short for this team, third down and short for the Seahawks, this was a team that let's remind us where we finished in terms of rank overall. We were 30th in the NFL in overall third down offense. What I found is that it really showed up in third and short, both on offense and defense. So this is third down and 3 yards or less to go. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Gosh darn it. There's a bug in a product I use that is very annoying. Let me change something real quick so I can get you the right results. So the Seahawks on third down and 3 yards or less to go last year, they only converted 54.5%. To give you an idea, the best teams in the NFL on third down and short on offense were the Buffalo Bills, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Philadelphia Eagles. You want to guess what they converted on third and 3 yards or less? The Seahawks were 54.5. Buffalo was 72.4%. Basically 3 out of 4 times they are going to convert that. San Francisco was 68.9%. Philadelphia was 68.6%. The Seahawks were well down the list. Now, the worst team in the NFL, the Jets, were 37.5%. So they weren't that bad, but they were one of the worst teams in the NFL in those situations. On defense, the best team in the NFL was actually the New Orleans Saints on third and short. They only allowed 38.3%. The Patriots, who the Seahawks will face in week 2, were second in the NFL, allowing 47.9%. Cleveland was third at 50%. Denver, who we'll face in week 1, was fourth with 50.8%. Again, this is third and short. And worth calling out, the Rams were sixth in the NFL. They allowed 51.6%. But generally, if you're keeping opponents to about 50% conversion rate on third and short, you're doing a good job. The best defenses in the NFL held offenses on third and short to about 50% conversion. The Seahawks ranked 28th in the NFL in this number. They allowed 66.2% of third and shorts to convert to a first down. 66.2% of third and 3 yards or less became first down for the Seahawks last year. This is something that just defines how weak this football team has been, especially last year. Now, one of the things to be aware of, and I'm going to talk about a couple other things and where I think this matters when it comes to playoff time. But we'll also take a look at how did how did Mike McDonald do in these situations last couple years. We will take a look as best we can how Ryan Grubb did in these situations. That's going to be kind of live research because I don't have all that in front of me, but we'll figure that out together. The last thing I wanted to share that was kind of pre-search for the show was, well, why does this matter? I mean, obviously it seems logical that it all matters, but I took a look at the playoffs last year and I looked at third down offense and third down defense. And I looked at third down differential. And let me see if I can. This is good enough. It's not going to be the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but we will put a quick little chart ski together. And there we go. Let's do. Yeah, I like this better. All right. Let me share this real quick. So what we have here is third down differential by all the playoff teams last year. And let me put a little data label up there that you can see. And let's make it big. Oh, that's a little too big. Let's make it big. All right. So what we have here is each of the teams. That's too hard to see too. Let me make the names a little bit bigger down here so you can see which teams we're talking about. There we go. That should be a little easier to read. So this is throughout just the playoffs last year, and this is third down differential. And if you look, there were a few teams in the negative, and there were a number of teams here in the positive. And the team that ranked second in the NFL in third down differential last year was the Kansas City Chiefs. Right here, Kansas City Chiefs. Who do they play in the Super Bowl? They played the San Francisco 49ers, who were one of the negative teams in third down differential. And if you look at that game last year, 49ers, Chiefs, Super Bowl. Here's what you're going to find. The 49ers were 3 of 12 on third downs last year. So much attention got paid to everything is about Patrick Mahomes for good reason. The guy is amazing, and he's the number one reason they are what they are. But that defense for the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo's work on defense is a huge, huge part of that team, and they would not have won that game. They 100% would not have won that game without the performance of that defense. And third down was one of their best plays throughout the situations throughout that game. The Chiefs in that game weren't amazing on third downs, but they were 9 for 19. which is not bad. It's not bad. It's a lot of third downs, but it's not bad. So I just wanted to show this, and you could go actually back to previous years, and this also shows some efficacy on teams that are going to win in the playoffs need to be excellent on third downs. Ultimately, no matter how good you are on one side of the ball or the other, there's going to be make or break third down plays that decide whether you advance, whether you win the ultimate game. And so being weak on this down is something that not only matters for just I guess entertainment value or just satisfaction with watching your team. It really matters in prepping yourself for the biggest moments that show up in the playoffs. And ultimately, the Seahawks have not been a team that when the game was really on the line, especially on defense, are capable of rising up and making those plays. I think it's also something to be aware of that they are not the most exotic defense and that has contributed to some of this. So we'll talk about what Mike McDonald's teams have done in that regard in a second. I see a question from one of our YouTube members, Eric Kinneman. He says it'd be interesting to look at third and long since it seems like we're poor in that as well. Let's do it. Let's do it. You can become a YouTube member too, by the way. Link is pinned in the chat. Your support is appreciated, and I will do things like actually, let's do it two ways. We'll look at third and 10. Well, third and long. We'll do third and 7 to 10, which is kind of a more standard third and long. And then we'll go third and extra long. I would bet that the Seahawks are one of the worst in third and 10 yards plus as well. So third and 7 to 10 yards first. And I'll give you both offense and defense since it's no skin off my nose to do both. And this is just for last year. The Seahawks on offense, this is an interesting thing. Good question. The Seahawks actually ranked 7th in the NFL on offense in converting third and 7 to 10 yards. 36.4%. Their third down conversion percentage was essentially the same on third and 7 to 10 as it was for overall. And that's partially because the bulk of their third downs, their yards to go on third down was one of the longest in the NFL. We'll talk about that in a little bit. On defense, on third and 7 to 10, the Seahawks ranked 29th in the NFL. They allowed 38.9% to convert. The best in the NFL was 20.3, 23, 23.7. Guess who ranked third in the NFL on third and 7 to 10 yards? The Baltimore Ravens. So we'll talk more about, I want to get a little bit more detail about why there's some hope about third down defense, especially with Mike McDonald, but a little preview there. The Baltimore Ravens were the third best defense in the NFL in those situations. But let's take a look at even the most frustrating Seahawks situation, which we all know, we've seen, third and more than 10 yards to go. Let's go third and 11 to whatever, however long it has to be. Could be third and 25. This is all the long third downs last year. And on offense, the Seahawks were one of the worst. I mean, this is not that important, I guess, on offense, but they just were not a team that could convert these. They ranked 25th, 11.6%. But it is kind of remarkable. The best teams in the NFL here are some of the best offenses. Dallas, 28%. Kansas City, 28%. The Rams, 27%. So that's like coming up on 2.5 times the conversion rate on offense for 3rd and 11 plus for those offenses compared to the Seahawks. The defense, let's take a look. Where did the Seahawks rank in this? Down near the bottom. The defense ranked, what would that be? 26th, 20%. So they were worse on 3rd and 7 to 10 than they are in 3rd and 11 plus. Part of the thing here for the Seahawks on offense in those situations, and Mina Kimes talked about this, I want to bring this up next, is pressure. The Seahawks were really a challenged team in pressure. So I want to take a moment on this because, and we're going to be flipping back and forth on offense and defense. I'll try to keep it clear, but let's get into it a little bit about why the Seahawks have been struggling on 3rd down. And let me actually see if I can do this quickly and where I am. I will try to tell you about what the average yards to go are for the Seahawks on 3rd down. I think this is a reliable number here, but we will find out. Yards to go. Hold on. I think I'm going to have to make one modification to this for that to be possible. Okay. This should work, I think. And this is just looking at last season. On offense, yeah, the Seahawks were kind of middle of the pack, lower 3rd. They ranked ranked 20th in the NFL in average yards to go, 7.1. All right, so not the best, but not the worst. Kansas City, for what it's worth, was tied with the Seahawks in average yards to go. One of the things that changed with Kansas City is they were able to convert with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They were able to convert 29%, 28% of those long 3rd downs into 1st downs. Seattle was only at like 11%. The best teams in the NFL, not that much different. The Chargers and the Raiders and the Jags had the least amount to go. That's why I have some question about whether this is the right number. I'm going to try a different place real quick. Just to double check my numbers. Average 3rd down distance. This is not going to help me. Well, we'll trust this for now. Double checking one more place. Yeah, doesn't help. All right. So at least by this that I'm looking at now, the Seahawks were like bottom 3rd, but still not the worst. Defensively, the Seahawks were one of the worst. They finished 28th, 27th in the NFL on like having the shortest amount of 3rd down yardage on average to pick up. But worth calling out, they were tied with the 49ers in that regard. So what I want to switch to on offense is, okay, what is a typical expectation about how you get better at third downs? One thing would be to say, all right, how are you on your first two downs? And if you look at the Seahawks last year on first and second down, I'm going to look at this from two different angles, but the Seahawks were one of the best offenses in the NFL on first and second down. And in some ways, that masks a little bit of the third down issue because they're picking up some first downs without getting to third down. They actually had a better chance in some cases of getting a first down on other downs than they did there. Case in point, no one tracks first down percentage or conversion rate on first and second down. It's always a third down number that people are doing that. But the Seahawks on first and second down converted their first and second downs sixth best to first downs among all NFL offenses last year. 26.8%. That's almost like that's getting in there within reasonable distance of their conversion rate on third downs. So the only teams that were better, the 49ers, 31.7%, the Miami Dolphins, 29.3%, the Buffalo Bills, 27.6%, the Detroit Lions and Baltimore Ravens were both 27.3%. The Seahawks were right behind them. They were ahead of Philadelphia. They were ahead of Cincinnati. They were ahead of Kansas City. They were ahead of Dallas. They were ahead of the Rams, ahead of Houston, ahead of Green Bay, ahead of Minnesota. They were one of the best teams in the NFL in converting their first and second downs into first downs. But when they got to third down and teams could be more exotic and they could be more like really pin their ears back to pressure, the Seahawks offense fell apart. So I want to tell you this because to me, I think it's very encouraging. I think I grabbed, let me see if I've got a visual of this one. Sure, I think I do. Let's show this for a second. Let's also take a look here. I'll refresh this, and we want to look at just first and second downs. And let's take a look at the offense. So let me share this, give you a little something other than my face to look at for a second. This is looking at, again, first and second down efficiency last year for the Seahawks. And this is on the horizontal axis here, drop back EPA per play, and on the vertical axis, rush EPA per play. And so if you're above the line, you are better than average on rush EPA per play. If you're right of the line, you're above average on pass EPA per play. You can see here the Seahawks were one of, if not the best. And obviously, you got 49ers are up here like, here, 49ers are up here in a stratosphere of first and second down. They also were not a great third down team, by the way, but definitely better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks are here. But the Seahawks are one of the best passing offenses in the NFL last year on first and second down. So everyone that thinks it's a Geno Smith problem, I have other ideas for you. I don't think it's a Geno Smith problem. We'll talk more about that in a second. And even rush EPA per play is not terrible. But let's take a closer look. The Seahawks on first and second down, I'll zoom in a bit here. Hopefully you guys can see this a little bit better now. So on overall EPA per play on first and second downs, the Seahawks were 4th in the NFL. The number 4 offense in the NFL on first and second downs by EPA per play. By pass, as I said, the Seahawks were 2nd in the NFL on first and second down last year in passing EPA. So you are not inheriting a dysfunctional offense. You're just not. I would say that rush EPA is a bigger issue. The Seahawks weren't terrible there, but they were 14th. 14th in the NFL in rush EPA per play, negative 1.02. That's a fair bit off from the offenses that were much better in that regard. San Francisco was not only first in pass EPA per play, they were first in rush EPA per play. They were the only positive EPA per play rush offense in the NFL on first and second downs. But Miami was good. Baltimore was good. They were 3rd in the NFL in this number. The Rams were good. The Packers were good. The Bills were good. These are the best offenses in football, generally performing well on the ground on first and second downs. I don't think the Seahawks at 14th is awful, but I don't think it's good enough. Out of curiosity, while we're here, if you remember right, the Seahawks 2015 squad was their best third down team. So let's take a look and see how that squad did on first and second down EPA. And let's first look at passing EPA. This is, again, 2015. Seahawks were 5th in first and second down EPA. This is my recollection of that team. For that team, the way they became a good third down offense is they had a lot of third and shorts. And then they had, if you remember right, that was the year that after the bye week, they instituted a lot of rub routes, Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin working together. That's when Tyler Lockett really came on. And Russell Wilson had his best stretch of situational football of his career. He was otherworldly for the last half of that season in third down conversions and in red zone. As far as rush EPA, just curious, Seahawks were 11th. Still not that great, not terrible, but they were 11th back in 2015. All right, so let's get back to the current era, 2023. And so we looked at, this is first and second downs, and the picture is relatively rosy. When you get to third downs, it stops being as rosy. So the Seahawks fall down on dropback. Remember, they were 2nd in the league on first and second downs on EPA per play. When you get to third down, You got to scroll a long ways to find the Seahawks down here at 23rd in EPA per play on third downs. So you take the number 2 passing offense on the first 2 downs and turn it into the 23rd passing offense in those situations. Rush EPA, this is one of the things that is perplexing and was very frustrating to me as a Seahawks fan. Again, not bad. 11th in EPA per play on rush. In fact, it was a positive EPA on third downs. But guess what? This is another thing I want to share that I think is easily correctable. Remember how we just talked about the Seahawks on third and short being one of the worst third and short teams in the NFL? Well, you would think one of the only times that running the ball is analytically supported as the right thing to do is on third and short. The percentage of times that the Seahawks ran on third and short was one of the lowest in football. I have this somewhere, but I'm going to have to do it myself again because I think I don't have it in this particular sheet. So let me just do this quick calculation while you guys all wait. I think this is right. Yep. And let's get this as a percentage. And cool. We will sort. So on third and short, the Seahawks, this is 3 yards or less. Last year, the Seahawks ran the ball 35.8% of the time. 35.8. Third and 3 yards or less. 2/3 of the time, more than 2/3 of the time. Well, no, 2/3 of the time. You are going to get a passing play out of the Seahawks in that situation. And this is from a team that cannot pass protect to save its life. I can almost guarantee you Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff are not going to pass the ball 66% of the time when it's third and 3 yards or less. And if they do, then shame on them. I do not believe that is the way to be excellent on third down. The number 1 team in this situation in conversion, remember, was Buffalo. 72.8% of the time they converted these situations, 72.4. How often did they run the ball on third and short? 70% of the time. More like basically double the rate. Like they had the exact opposite approach to third and short. What was another team that was very good in these situations? The Baltimore Ravens. They run the ball on the second highest rate, 69% of the time on third and short. This is not about, oh my God, we've got to come up with this miraculous new scheme for how to be effective on third down. Take one part of this, break it into third and short, and then break it into other situations. It's third and mid to third and long. Third and long, the Seahawks were pretty decent last year. They were one of the better teams in the NFL in third and long. But third and short, they were one of the worst. And what did they do? Just the friggin' choice to run the ball will increase their chances of conversion on third and short. Now, the offensive line has to be good enough to warrant it. And you have to understand what kind of play calls to run there. Shane Waldron, this is one of the places he was atrocious at knowing when and how to call running plays at any down, but especially on third down, especially on third and short. So if you're looking for optimism, to me, this is one of the most optimistic areas that you don't have to be a genius to change. Ryan Grubb can come in here and just start to do the obvious. Run the ball on 3rd and short. That will help. Now, the other part of this that I want to give Mina Kimes, friend of the show, some credit for, and she had to defend herself on this yesterday as she was tweeting out about it. But she talked about Geno Smith not being the problem with the offense last year. And she talked specifically about his performance on 1st and 2nd down and on 3rd downs. So on 1st down last year, Geno was 1st in QBR and 4th in EPA per dropback. 1st in QBR. Why don't I go ahead and share my screen on this? Why not? I think I can do that. And it's a little more interesting to look at. What does this do? Yeah, sure. That's kind of interesting. All right. All right. So here's Mina Kimes talking about that. One of the things that she mentions is, why did he struggle? Oops. Why did he struggle on 3rd down? Let me make that even bigger for y'all. He struggled on 3rd down because he was the most pressured quarterback in football, despite having an average time to throw. And what does that mean? I think she goes into this further. I'll see if I can find that post, but it was a situation where Geno was pressured. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Sorry, folks. I'm looking for this. I should have had this ready, but yeah, I don't see where she had it somewhere on here, but basically she had Geno as one of the most pressured quarterbacks in those situations. And let's see if I can find the quote tweet for her. Give me one more second because it's worth it if I can find it. It was good information. Let's see if she's got it here. Yeah, I'm not finding it. I won't keep you guys waiting on that. But it was an interesting bit from from Mina on Geno last year. If I look at that, let me pull up some stats here from our friend over at PFF. And if we look at pressures allowed by quarterbacks, this is last year. Let's do. This is an interesting one, folks. I haven't even looked at this. I swear to God, I haven't looked at this before. So PFF has a stat where they track allowed pressure by the quarterback, or sorry, allowed pressure, and then they assign responsibility for that pressure. It can be the quarterback, offensive line, They even go to left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, interior tight end, or other. So if there's all this pressure happening on third down, that could be the quarterback. Quarterbacks generally, people don't like to hear this, but quarterbacks are often responsible for their own pressure, their own sacks. And part of the studies that have been done here is that if you see a quarterback go to another team or have a different offensive line or have a different offensive coordinator, they still generally have the same amount of pressure as they did because they are making choices or not making choices that would help them in that situation. Well, who was the number one quarterback in the NFL in terms of percentage of pressures that they had that was attributed to them as the quarterback? At 24%, almost a quarter of the pressures he received last year were his responsibility, according to PFF, Russell Wilson. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. Number 3, Lamar Jackson. Number 4, Josh Allen. Number 5, Patrick Mahomes. So it's not like you're a bad quarterback if you do this, but as far as creating situations where you are responsible for the pressure, Russell Wilson was clear and away the top of this list at 24%. Where does Geno Smith fall on this list? Any guesses of where Geno Smith falls in terms of, this isn't just third downs, this is any situation, any drop back where pressure was created? What percentage was Geno Smith? And where did that rank in the entire NFL? I am shocked by this. I didn't know this. I can't believe it. Geno Smith was only responsible for 6.5% of his pressures last year. That ranked 35th in the NFL. Well, that's a negative view of it. If you want to look at it from a positive, Geno Smith was 5th best in the NFL in creating his own pressures, for allowing the fewest pressures based off his own decisions. 5th best. He was right behind Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins, and Joe Burrow. I mean, actually, the guy that's first doesn't have enough snaps. So he's really, Geno's 4th. That is wild to me that he was that good in terms of limiting pressures that he created himself. But then let's talk about which offensive line was creating the most pressures. Well, it shouldn't be a surprise. The offensive line was responsible for 87.6% of those pressures. But let's take a look and see where on the offensive line was responsible for the most of those pressures. Let's look at left tackle. Was it Charles Cross? Guess what? Left tackle was responsible for 26.5% of those pressures. That ranked 12th most in the NFL. So the answer is yes. Left tackle was a big part of the problem last year. Let's look at left guard. Where did that rank? 30th. So you Damian Lewis fans, there's some ammunition for you. Left guard was not the problem from a pressure perspective. Let's look at center. Where did that rank? 31st. So Evan Brown, not the problem last year. Let's look at right guard. Where does that rank? 33rd. That doesn't even seem. Now, this is a percentage. Realize that when you have a lot of pressures, if someone's just doing the most of them, that doesn't necessarily mean that the others aren't really a problem. But if we're just looking percentage-wise, left tackle was a big one. But you wanna know the biggest one? You wanna know something that the Seahawks led the league in? The Seahawks right tackles last year gave up 37.3% of the pressures on Geno's dropbacks. 37.3. That is the number one number in the NFL by a landslide. The next closest was in Indianapolis with 31%. So a 6% difference between first and second on this list. If I wanted to take the difference between a 6% difference between second and like 12th or 13th, I mean, that's how big of a gap there is between first and second and everybody else. I mean, right tackle was a absolute disaster last year for the Seahawks. And I don't think I've seen a number that better qualifies how big of a deal this was for the Seahawks than this. They led the league in percentage of pressures given up by their right tackle. And you add that in with their left tackle being at 26.5%. I got to say, folks, we spent a lot of time talking about the interior offensive line. I have spent a lot of time talking about the interior offensive line. We may have it wrong. If we want to get better on third downs, if we want to get better on offense in general, it might be as simple as tackle play. I mean, one of the things I feel good about is George Fant is not amazing, but he is considerably better than either Stone Forsythe or Jake Curran as options at right tackle. We might find that Mike Jarrell, Garrett Greenfield, that these new guys, that they bring some opportunity at that right tackle spot that we didn't know we had. But boy, talk about needing to make a change. There is not a single great offense. Well, there's one. Baltimore, their left tackle was a decent chunk of their offense, or their pressures. But for the most part, if your left tackle is giving up a lot of pressures, you're struggling. And so we talked about it on the show yesterday with Rob Staten and Griff. Charles Cross, man, he's got to step up. He has got to step up. He has got to be better than this. And then, yes, if Abe Lucas can be healthy, fantastic. If not, George Fant has got to be, essentially what he's been. Not great, but better, like a viable starter. He is a viable starter. Think about this. If the Seahawks performance on first and second down is an indication of what this offense can be. Remember, they were second in the NFL in dropback EPA per dropback. That is the way to say it. They were second in the NFL in EPA per dropback on first and second downs last year. That implies that on downs where pressure is not a known issue, like you're not knowing that the defense is going to be coming after you, and the defense isn't assuming that you're going to be passing, this can be a top 5 offense. I think we all see that and feel that. It didn't feel that way last year. It was so frustrating. But if you can figure out some of these pressure issues, then you can be effective you don't have to be the best on third down. but they cannot be what they've been for the past few years, which is one of the worst offenses on third down in the NFL. Even with these pressure problems, they were 23rd last year on third downs. I think that absolutely can jump to the mid-teens or high teens if they can protect better than they did. And this is why I think people really misunderstand where Geno fits in this equation. People are like, he needs to play better against better teams. Those teams, the 49ers, some of these teams that when it came down to third down could really dial up pressure and had elite edge pressure players, there just often wasn't an opportunity for Geno to do anything. But when he gets protection, Geno is one of the best. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. I know people don't like to hear it, but it's true. He just is. He's not necessarily the best, but he is more than just a viable quarterback in those situations. You cannot be number 2 in the NFL in EPA per dropback on first and second down and be a mediocre quarterback. That just is not real. That is just people trying to push a narrative. So I see a question from Cindy Shell about comparison of 2022 to 2023 to see if it correlates with Geno's regression. That's a great question. So Cindy, I'm guessing you're talking about the pressure numbers. Let's do that. Let's take a look at that. And Cindy is a new YouTube member, so thank you for joining. Appreciate it. I think you might even be a Patreon member. So if you folks haven't joined at patreon.com/hawkblogger, please do that as well. Give the show a like and subscribe. It's Memorial Day. We're doing a show. This is 64 straight days, I think, with the show. So keep the love coming. I appreciate it. But yeah, we've already talked about the trends over the years on third down percentage on offense and defense, but let's look at the allowed pressure. So let's look at 2022, where we did have Abe Lucas in place. All right. In that year, interestingly, Geno Smith still was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He ranked among the top 10 in being responsible for pressures allowed. But it was a higher percentage. Doesn't mean that there was more of them. Remember that. I can get to that specific number. He had 24 pressures he was responsible for in 2022. Only 11 pressures he was responsible for in 2023. So he was responsible for more pressures in 2023. Double checking. Yeah. So 24. So he cut down his pressures quite a bit that he was responsible for. Let's look at left tackle. Unfortunately, left tackle was essentially the same percentage of pressures responsible, 26%. Again, 12th in the NFL in that number, and that's not a number you want to be high in. Left guard, similar. Center improved in Evan Brown definitely was a step forward in 2023. In 2022, 13%, which ranked 19th among all teams, were attributed to center. So that's a big jump from where they went from 19th and they then went to like 30th, I think, last year. So improvement in that regard. Oh my gosh, right guard had a huge improvement last year, actually, in terms of percentage of pressures. That was 25.8%, which was third most in the NFL in 2022. That improved to, let me double check what that was in 2023. That improved to 14.6% of pressures and ranked 33rd on the list in 2023. So a big change there. But right tackle, where Abe Lucas played the whole year in 2022, this is a massive difference. They were 24th in the NFL. Remember, they were first in the NFL in 2023 in percentage of pressures coming from right tackle. So being 24th, that's Abe Lucas in a statistic right there. A healthy Abe Lucas put them in one of the best right tackle situations in the NFL from a percentage of pressures perspective. So yeah, his recovery is a big deal. Not just that he can get on the field, but that he can play hopefully close to what he was playing as a rookie. We weren't imagining things. The tackle play was decent in 2022, although Charles Cross is not doing his job. He is not meeting the bar. So I could keep going on this point on offense. I do want to touch on defense a little bit. Let me see if I can find a quick thing on Washington Huskies stuff on Grub. I don't know if this is going to be easy to find or not. I don't look at a lot of college football stats. Third down efficiency, they were 44% last year. Let's see if I can find this. Team numbers. Oh my gosh, all these click-throughs, so annoying. Let's see. Third down conversions. Yeah, 44% does not give me ranks. Let me see if I can find rankings. Let's see here. College football stats. This is 2022. Oh, interesting. So in 2022, the Huskies ranked first in the FBS in third down conversion rates, 56.8%. That's good. I'll take that. In 2023, they ranked 28th. And that's out of 133 teams. So you were talking about an offensive coordinator who has been one of the best in third down situations. Interestingly, you can split this by when they played ranked teams, AP ranked teams. In those situations, in 2023, the Huskies were 16th in the nation in third down conversion on offense at nearly 43%. In 2022, where are they in 2022? Oh, they were fourth. So even when they played quality opponents, that's always a thing with college football is a lot of times you have some fluff players or fluff teams on your schedule and you puff up your stats. But they were fourth in college football in third down conversions at 56.5% when playing ranked opponents in 2022. So again, if you're looking for optimism, Ryan Grubb has been a very good third down play caller in his time in college. Ryan Grubb will run the football on third and short. Ryan Grubb is an offensive line coach. Historically, Scott Huff is a new offensive line coach. these guys are going to 100% be focusing on improving the line play. You've now got Christian Haynes. I think Timmy will be fine as a pass protector. But the picture that's emerging here, folks, is you've got the pieces you need to be a highly potent offense. And you've got this one thing that is keeping you from doing it, which is pressure. Pressure and play calling. I think the play calling is going to almost certainly be better. We talked about 3rd and short, that the Seahawks only ran the ball on 35% of 3rd and 3 yards or less plays last year, which was one of the least in football, when the top teams in football are running at 70% of the time in that situation and converting 70% of the time. That's an easy change, and you're going to see that from Ryan Grubb. I 100% believe that to be true. And he is better at calling run plays in general. I think that the EPA per play on run plays is going to jump in general for the Seahawks this year, which is also going to lead to shorter 3rd downs more often, and that can compound itself to improving 3rd downs. And you've got a guy who has proven himself to not just be a blunt instrument on 3rd downs. Ryan Grubb has been a creative 3rd down play caller, a creative 4th down play caller in his time with Washington. I mean, you don't have to think farther back than that Washington State game. In the ultimate moment, 4th down, back in their own territory, that play to pitch to Rome Odunze was one of the most breathtaking calls I've ever seen in that situation with all that was on the line. That is not who Shane Waldron was. He does not have that in his bag of tricks. He does not have, frankly, he just doesn't have the guts to make that kind of call. Ryan Grubb does. So I think there's every reason to feel, and by the way, I did not even bring up Jackson Smith and Jigba. I want to do this real quick. I was going to switch to defense, and we're already an hour and a half in, but I'm so passionate about this topic. I think it's such a big deal. I'm going to keep going. You're welcome to stick with me. You're welcome to drop off. But if we look, let's look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, just him on 3rd down last year. Let's just look at his usage on 3rd down. My recollection is his usage increased considerably as the weeks went on. So let's sort by date. This doesn't really give me a great, well, I think there's a way I can do this. Let me try something real quick. Modify. Let's get rid of this. Sure. Call that good. And let me just drop this into a sheet and see if I can back up my instincts. This is my way my mind works, folks. So you're seeing this all in real time. So I've written all my articles over the years. This is a good time while I'm doing this to give the show a like and click subscribe while I figure out how to prove a point or disprove a point, as in my case might be. Let's do this. Let's just look at this and yeah. Oops. Let's look at this. And we'll look at this. This could be cool if it turns out to be something interesting. It also could be cool if it's not. I just like finding out. Oh, that's ugly. Let's edit this chart. Remove. Okay. And let's look at it as a scatter. Oops. Oops. X-axis. Where's my? Okay, there we go. Oops. That is too hard to read, but we're going to make it work as best we can. Oops. Well, this doesn't really help me that much. Let me see if I can find a trend line in this. Appreciate you guys putting up with me while I do this. I'm trying to figure out if there's something interesting here or not. Yeah, there's something here. It's not the most interesting thing, but it does show the improvement I think I was looking for. All right, let me share for you guys what I'm looking at. It's probably going to look like chicken scratchings, but so be it. Point size. Let's make these big fatties a little bit easier to see. Okay. So if I share my screen here, so this is a quick bit of research on how Jackson Smith and Jigba fared on third downs as the season went on. This is going to be very hard to read. What you're seeing here is going this direction is date. So as the season progressed, all of these are all of Jackson Smith and Jigba's third down plays across the season. What I wanted to kind of show is there more happening as the season go on? But what the actual vertical axis is here is EPA per play. And I think that's actually interesting because the implication here is not just is he being utilized, but is the quality of his performance improving over time on third down? And as you can see here, this is a trend line where his EPA per third down play is improving as the season, as the season goes on. You like my new telestrator that I've got here? I've got to get better at getting it on this line here, but there you go. That is the trend for EPA per play on third downs for Jackson Smith and Jigba. And yes, Jeffrey Ford is asking 2 third down targets in week 1. I'm not for sure that was week 1. It could have been. This is just the dates where he had third down targets, and you're not guaranteed that he had a third down target in each date. I can do a quick check here. Those were, yes, against the Rams. He had 2 targets on third down against the Rams. Whoops, that is not what I meant to do. All right. So I guess my point here, the reason I did this, and if you look also, I think it's kind of cool. Look at these guys up here. His highest EPA plays on third down were coming later in the season, right? And he did have a bad EPA game here, which is holding down things in general. But you're getting just a lot more numbers, a lot more plays above the line, positive EPA plays on third down as the season progressed. Why does this matter? Because I think he's a huge part of their package of effectiveness on third down. And so I just think JSN's another reason for optimism on third downs. So to recap on offense, run the ball on third and short more often than you don't. Everyone that's like, look at the numbers. Be a team that runs more often than you pass on third and short. It's the right call. Easy thing to change. Be a better play caller on third and short or third in general. I think we absolutely have that in Ryan Grubb. Better protection, specifically from left tackle. Left tackle and then right tackle from last year. But right tackle was an absolute crap house. Like, it was absolutely atrocious. The worst right tackle situation in the NFL. They were one of the best the year before. Even getting back to league average would be a huge jump and allow Geno Smith to be the player that was number 2 in the NFL in first and second down dropback EPA, number 1 in the NFL in first down EPA. These are the building blocks. And then JSN as another new piece to continue to evolve. His chemistry with Geno Smith will make them even tougher to deal with on third down. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. The one that I'm probably most skeptical about, or at least most wondering about, is Charles Cross really capable of being better than he's been? I want to see it. Abe Lucas, at least it's just an injury thing. If he's healthy, Abe Lucas is good. He doesn't have to prove whether he's good. He has to prove whether he can be on the field and be the same player, but he's already proven he's a good right tackle. And if he's not, if he can't get on the field, George Fant is already significantly better. The floor there is already significantly higher than it was a year ago. So really, to me, this comes down to left tackle and Charles Cross being a huge part of correcting what was a problem with third down last year. So that's offense. I'm not going to go nearly as deep on defense. So I just wanted to look a little bit at the Ravens. And if we flip the bit and we look last year at third down, who were the best teams in the NFL on third down? I'm going to show this with you as I find it out myself. So we'll do this together. Let me present my screen again. One of the things to know about Mike McDonald is before he was even a coordinator, he was given the responsibility to go and research third down as a situation. He researched across multiple defensive coordinators, across multiple offenses, how they approached it, what worked, what pressure packages worked, what didn't, why they worked, why they didn't. Whoops. So one of the pieces here to understand with Mike McDonald is he already has invested time in understanding the mechanics of third down. And he is one of the most skilled third down defensive play callers in the NFL. Where does that show up? Well, it shows up in a couple places. Overall, EPA per play last year on third downs, Baltimore was fourth. Fourth in the NFL in that category. And I'll go look and bring it on from another screen. But as far as where they performed, I will put this as well. Give me 1 second and I'll bring it into view. In 2023, third downs, the Ravens were, not surprisingly, one of the best third down defenses in football. They allowed only 36.4% of third downs to complete last year. They also had one of the highest sack rates on third down last year. They had the highest turnover rate on third downs. 4% of plays for offenses on third downs resulted in turnovers. Guess where the Seahawks were in that number? 31st. 0.8% of the Seahawks defensive plays last year on third down resulted in a turnover. Less than half the percentage that the Ravens did. And I know people are curious about third and short. I think I talked about this. Let's look at third and the various. We'll do third and short. And we'll do third and long. So with third and 3 yards or less to go, the Ravens defense honestly wasn't great. So third and short, highlight thing to be aware of. The Ravens were down there in the bottom part of the league. This was not a great defense when it got to third and short. Let's count here. 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21st. 21st in the NFL in third and 3 yards or less. They gave up 58.7%. They gave up first down almost 59% of the time. So this could contribute to the reputation that Mike McDonald's defense had, especially toward the end of the year, of struggling against the run. Again, third and short is meant to be a running play, or should be. And some of the question on his defense was its ability to defend the run. That really dropped off last year. But if you go third down and long, I will be surprised if they do not rank highly there. So on third down and 7 to 10 yards to go, the Ravens ranked third in the NFL, allowing only 23.7% of those plays to result in a first down, and maybe even more impressively, 5.1% of those plays, third and 7 to 10 yards, 5.1% resulted in a turnover. Seattle, 0%. Dead last in the NFL. They had 0 turnovers on third and 7 to 10 yards. I mean, you could not have a bigger disparity than the Ravens on third down defense on 7 to 10 yards and the Seahawks. So I think that's pretty interesting and encouraging. I am curious. Everyone says, oh, Mike McDonald, you got Roquan Smith. That's the whole thing. Let's look over the course of 2022 and 2023. All right. And we'll just look at third downs again. We'll start by looking at third and long, since we're already on that. The Ravens ranked 4th in the NFL in third and 7 to 10 defense over the course of the last 2 years. And by the way, remember that 5.1% turnover percentage that I thought was crazy on third and 7 to 10? Guess what? It was better in 2022. Over the last 2 years, Mike McDonald's defense on third and 7 to 10 yards has turned the ball over 5.7% of the time. That is a full percent more than the next closest, the Eagles and the Browns. I mean, these are the best defenses in the NFL. The Eagles, the Browns, the 49ers. 5.7% of the plays on third and 7 to 10 over the last 2 years have been turned over by Mike McDonald's defense. That's remarkable. Like, that is jaw-dropping from my perspective. Now, let's look at third down and short, just to see if this has been a systemic problem for Mike McDonald or if it was really a 2023 problem. By the way, I mean, I still can't get over 5.7. That means in 2022, his turnover percentage on third and 7 to 10 had to be over 6%. I mean, that's just wild. That is wild. All right. I'm looking at third and short just for 2022, and it's pretty similar. Third and short seems to be a problem for Mike McDonald's defense. Something to be aware of, something to pay attention to. That has not been where his defense has excelled. But if you look over at third downs in general, over the last 2 years when he has been the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, and includes some games without Roquan Smith, then over those 2 years, the Ravens ranked 5th in the NFL in third down defense. And number 1 in the NFL in turning the ball over from offenses on third downs. So I think that that's a really fascinating and encouraging bit of news from Mike McDonald and how he's approached things. We're looking here at third downs just from last year. Oh, what? This is one of those weird things on this site. All right. Success rate on third down last year, they're 9th. Drop back per EPA, they were 5th. So you guys can see, follow along here. Rush EPA, and this is where there's questions about his defense. Rush EPA, they were 19th on third down. And if I go to rush success rate, I bet it would be even lower. Yeah. So rush success rate on third down, this is getting the gain that you need on that down to get a first down. They were 28th. They were actually lower than the Seahawks last year in that category. So I do think that it's not like he's just going to solve everything. But getting to a point where your defense can be this far to the right on defending the pass on third down, that should be a realistic goal for the Seahawks. The Seahawks should not be the worst team in the NFL in drop back EPA. I mean, God dang, 32nd in the NFL in drop back EPA on third downs. Not when you have Devin Witherspoon, not when you have Tariq Woolen, not when you have Trey Brown. That should not be the Seahawks on third down. And I don't even think that should be when you have the safeties that they've got now. I don't think that should be when you've got Leonard Williams, now Byron Murphy, Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu hopefully will come back. I'm curious. Just as a case in point, so Uchenna Nwosu got hurt when? What week was that? Let me look that up real quick. He got hurt. He got hurt in week 6. So if we look at week 1 to 6 here, I'm curious how this looks different. So how big was the Uchenna Nwosu injury? Well, the Seahawks still, even when he was playing, ranked dead last in EPA per play on third downs. So that was not the change. Seahawks were still dead last. But I think if you're looking forward, what's the explanation? What's the reason to believe that the Seahawks third down defense can make a jump? Number one, it's just Mike McDonald is a guy who's studied that down and studied what works and is a great play caller, a great tactician, a great game planner. And he's bringing all that to Seattle. Not to mention you got Leslie Frazier in the loop and Aiden Dirty. All these, I think, just a lot of minds that are going to help on that in that situation. Then you have Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams. I think that's huge. I think that's going to help. It's going to help on the run defense, and it's going to help on pass pressure. You're going to have Uchenna Nwosu back. I do think that helps. It definitely doesn't hurt. He helps on run defense as much as he helps on pass rush, maybe more. Boye Mafe hopefully will take another step forward as a pass rusher. We'll see what we get from other players. Who knows? And then the secondary, I mean, I think Devin Witherspoon's going to take a step forward. I think that the types of pressures that the Seahawks are going to run under Mike McDonald are going to be significantly more effective than what we've seen from the Seahawks in past years. So I think there's a lot of reasons to expect the Seahawks third down defense to not be the worst in the NFL, which is roughly what it was. And if you heard the first part, which I think you did, when I talked about third down offense, I think there's at least as many, if not more reasons to be optimistic that that's going to improve. And it has to. If the Seahawks don't want to be a mediocre pushover, third down cannot be the absolute disaster that it's been the last few years. All right. I will wrap there. I will ask you all, if you haven't already, please give the show a like and click subscribe. You can join as a YouTube member. The link is pinned in the chat and it's in the description of the video. You get access to having your name show up as a special emblem next to it. I will know when you're asking a question or a comment, making a comment, give me more of a chance to respond to you, even when we're not on the show. And then it also gives you access to things like custom emojis, who one of our members, Jeffrey Ford, just used me with a bag over my head, the angry bag emoji. You can get that if you're a YouTube member. So great reason to join. And then also go to patreon.com/hawkblogger, join now. You will get immediate access to the Slack channel where the conversations go on and on about this and all other sports. And you will get the audio version of this podcast immediately following the show. So great reason to join over on patreon.com/hawkblogger. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your Memorial Day weekend. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at hawkblogger. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care.